Pull prayer. Thank you so much for joining us. The scripture is the request of James and John, Mark chapter 10, verses 25 through 35. Then James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to him. "Teacher," they said, "we want you to do for us whatever we ask." "What do you want me to do for you?" he asked. They replied, "Let one of us sit at your right and the other one at your left in your glory." You don't know what you are asking," Jesus said. "Can you drink the cup I drink or be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with?" "We can," they answered. Jesus said to them, "You will drink the cup I drink and be baptized with the baptism I am baptized with. But to sit at my right or my left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those whom they have been prepared." Then the 10 heard about this, and they became indignant with James and John. Jesus called them together and said, "You know that those who are regarded as rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be slaves of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many." I felt nervous, jitters in my stomach, as I stepped up on stage, standing behind that microphone, about to tell a crowd of 200 people about the death of my father and how my life has been since. My mom is almost more nervous than me because my outline had only a few sentences on it. But I knew my story. I knew of my message, of how we're often taught that there is one path after somebody dies and you move on, of how you're expected to be sad and after a certain amount of time you move on and your life becomes normal again. But it's nothing like that. It's a whirlwind of emotions that are different for each person. They fade and come flooding back again and again. I was speaking at the Cara Grief Foundation fundraiser, and I was asked to speak because I was the first ever participant to come back as a camp counselor. I entered the program when I was 9, and where in the meeting for kids just like me, I learned that I was not alone in dealing with my grief. I learned how to express myself, and ultimately that any grief feeling was okay. I also attended Camp Aaron, which is a weekend summer camp organized by Cara. That also helped me to heal, understand what I was feeling, and to learn how to cope and help those around me. After a few years as a participant, I asked to be a camp counselor. I was excited to share what I learned from my loss and help others who were struggling. I thought I had it all figured out and I had the whole grieving process down. Yet I found myself horribly unprepared for the candle lighting ceremony, where I have a group of 9 to 10-year-old girls crying on my shoulder and leaning into me for support. I tried to think of some perfect phrase to help the campers' pain go away, but I couldn't think of one because there is none. All I could do in that moment was hold on to them and be there for them, which is one of the hardest things I've had to do. On the last day, a counselor brought me over to the teenager group and introduced me to them. He said, "Guess how old she is?" Answers varied from 18 to 25. I smiled at them and told them I was 14 years old, and I will never forget how their jaws dropped. I encouraged them that you don't need to be old or wait to make a change, and that they should come back next year as a camp counselor. And sure enough, one did. Scott came back as a junior counselor, so then there was 2 of us. Then the very next year, 2 more joined. Our numbers were literally doubling, and one of them being a St. Francis student, Mason Elephant, who some of you may know. Now the campers come up to me and tell me how they're going to come back as a camp counselor too. At first, I wanted to be a counselor just to give back to an organization that has made me who I am today, but to see others encouraged by my actions is really inspiring. Taking that first step alone often can be scary. I didn't know if the counselors were going to accept me or take my input seriously because of the age difference. I didn't know if they were going to take me as one of them. But they recognized that I brought something new to the table and helped encourage others to come back and volunteer. Your actions, bravery, and kindness can cause a chain reaction like dominoes. Jesus is the perfect example of someone who is a leader and in the first domino of God's message of love and forgiveness, and it's caused a rippling effect for the past 2,000 years. Jesus encouraged us to be the first falling domino in order to help others do the same. Therefore, be a leader for kindness, support others, foster peace, and be a messenger of God's love.